7 of 9 Star Trek Voyager success wasn't because of her sex appeal. The success of 7 of 9 Jeri Ryan as a character in Star Trek Voyager isn't just because of her sex appeal. Star Trek Voyager made an important leap forward for women in Star Trek, with the franchise's first female captain leading a Star Trek series, Kate Mulgrew's Captain Catherine Janeway, as well as Lieutenant B'Elanna Torres Roxanne Dawson as the USS Voyager's chief engineer. Joined by Kes Jennifer Lyon, the 3 women in Star Trek Voyager's cast were female Star Trek characters whose intelligence, creativity, and curiosity mattered more than their physical appearances. When Jeri Ryan's 7 of 9 was brought on to save Star Trek Voyager's flagging ratings in its 4th season, 7's sexual appeal and skin-tight costumes seemed to undermine the feminist strides that Star Trek Voyager had already taken. There's no doubt that 7 of 9, as a sexy ex-Borg drone turned human, did succeed in the goal of attracting new viewers, but 7's undeniable sex appeal didn't actually detract from Voyager as a feminist show. In true Star Trek fashion, there was much more to 7 of 9 as a character than what she looked like. 7 of 9 was a Trojan Horse on Star Trek Voyager. Star Trek Deep Space Nine's Nana Visitor refers to 7 of 9 as a true Trojan Horse in her book, Star Trek Open A Channel, A Woman's Trek, which recounts Star Trek history through a lens that examines the franchise's female characters. As Visitor keenly observes, fans latched onto 7 of 9 as Star Trek Voyager's outsider, regardless of what she wore, which confirms that 7 is a much more nuanced character than her sexualized appearance might initially suggest. 7 being sexy was just a way to lure viewers in before surprising them with a compelling story arc of a complex character arc, unlike any other on Star Trek Voyager. Read Visitor's quote below. As I watch the show now and interview so many people to whom 7 was important, I see she served as a true Trojan Horse. The sexiness brought more people to the show, where they could come for the costume but stay for a well-acted and developed character. 7 was an avatar many different groups of people could claim as their own in the same way Spock, Data, and Dax were, but maybe for even a wider group. She was an abused child, she was a survivor of trauma, she was a victim of a cult, she was queer, she was neurodiverse, she was every woman who has been valued for her appearance, but is so much more. She was anyone who struggled to find their true self and fit into a world where they felt othered. Rather than being a step backwards for Star Trek Voyager as a feminist show, 7 of 9 was a female character who defied conventional 90s TV stereotypes by daring to be complex. 7 was sexy and intelligent, physically attractive and socially uncertain, longing for her old collective and figuring out how to be an independent individual. 7 of 9 and Janeway's best episodes of Star Trek Voyager together automatically passed the Bechdel test and pushed both characters to be stronger and more interesting. Being sexy was only the start of 7 of 9's story, which would continue even after Voyager ended. 7 changed but stayed interesting in Star Trek Picard. In Star Trek Picard, 7 of 9 was a changed but still interesting character who no longer needed the allure of a tight-fitting catsuit to draw viewers in. Now attired in the practical gear of a Fenris Ranger peacekeeper, 7 of 9 faced a difficult life in the Alpha Quadrant, fraught with extreme prejudice against ex-Borg that resulted in 7's rejection from Starfleet and the death of her protege, Icub Manu Intiraymi. Even after being accepted by Starfleet in Star Trek Picard Season 3, Commander 7 of 9 faced microaggressions and outright hostility from Captain Liam Shaw, Todd Stashwick. When 7 of 9 was introduced to Star Trek Voyager in the 4th season, it was impossible to ignore the character's striking appearance. Played by Jeri Ryan, she wore a skin-tight silver jumpsuit, and her transformation from a Borg drone to an individual with human emotions and struggles became a focal point for the series. This introduction led some critics and viewers to suggest that 7 of 9 was primarily added to the series for her sex appeal, but this interpretation underestimates the character's depth and the narrative complexity she brought to Voyager. 7 of 9's success on Star Trek Voyager was not a product of her appearance alone. Instead, her character enriched the series in ways that went beyond superficial allure. The character offered a profound exploration of humanity, individuality, and the clash between logic and emotion, all key themes that resonate deeply within Star Trek's broader philosophical framework. To reduce her role to mere eye candy is to misunderstand both her arc and the significance of her journey within the Star Trek universe. A compelling character, Arc 7 of Nine's narrative begins with her being liberated from the Borg Collective, a hive mind that suppresses individuality and free will. The transformation of a Borg drone into a human who has to rediscover what it means to be an individual was one of the most compelling character arcs on Voyager. Her struggle to regain her humanity and her interactions with the crew, particularly Captain Janeway, became one of the most thought-provoking elements of the series. Seven was not just a woman in a catsuit, she was a woman grappling with identity, belonging, and personal autonomy. She represented a different kind of challenge to the traditional Star Trek humanistic ideals. Unlike Spock or Data, who dealt with a duality of emotion versus logic, Seven had to unlearn an entire way of existence. The conflict between her Borg conditioning and the values of her new human crewmates gave the show a rich source of drama. Her relationship with Captain Janeway was particularly notable. Janeway saw Seven not as a project, but as someone with enormous potential who needed guidance to reclaim her humanity. Their dynamic shifted from mentor-mentee to something more complex, as Seven began to assert her independence and challenge Janeway's decisions. This mentor-student relationship evolved into one of mutual respect and friendship, rooted in shared experiences of leadership and the burden of personal growth. Exploration of themes, identity and humanity at its core, Seven's character arc was an exploration of human identity, what it means to be an individual, how free will shapes who we are, and how our past experiences affect our present selves. As she learned to rediscover her humanity, the audience watched her struggle with complex emotions such as guilt, confusion, loneliness, and pride. 7 of 9 became a powerful vehicle for exploring the consequences of individuality. Her ability to think independently, form opinions, and make choices was both a freedom and a burden. These themes, which resonate throughout Star Trek as a whole, were particularly sharp in Seven's story because she had lived without individuality for so long as a Borg drone. Her slow acceptance of her own humanity and her realization that emotions are not weaknesses but strengths provided some of the most profound moments of the series. The process of reclaiming humanity also allowed Voyager to deal with themes of trauma and recovery in a way that was rare for TV at the time. Seven had been assimilated into the Borg as a child, meaning she had no memory of human life, and her journey was not just about learning to fit in, but about reconstructing an identity that had been stolen from her. This is what made her character so compelling. She was not a blank slate, but someone with layers of pain, anger, and fear that had to be unpacked over time. Breaking the sex symbol mold, while there's no denying that Jeri Ryan's portrayal of 7 of 9 was visually striking, the notion that her success was tied to sex appeal is short-sighted. The character's wardrobe, while often cited as evidence that she was added for ratings, was only one aspect of a multifaceted persona. Ryan's performance elevated 7 beyond any superficial elements, adding layers of nuance and depth to the character. Ryan delivered a portrayal of 7 as someone caught between two worlds, emphasizing her vulnerability, her struggle to conform to human norms, and her confusion about the emotions she couldn't suppress. 7's stoicism, directness, and logical demeanor, remnants of her Borg past, stood in stark contrast to her internal battle with the emotions she tried to deny. Ryan portrayed this inner turmoil with subtlety,